want to start first of all by thanking Frank. Frank, we are in your place after all, and the folks at Saraceno's for having us here today to discuss the third round of grants for small businesses through the Mass Capital Growth Corporation. First, I'll give my update on the COVID data. Yesterday, the Department of Public Health reported 5,278 new cases of COVID. Over 100,000 tests were reported, and almost 12 million tests have now been done in the Commonwealth. 2,200 individuals are in the hospital being treated for COVID, and of that, 461 are in the ICU. With respect to today's announcement, the Lieutenant Governor and I are pleased to be here today with Larry Andrews, who's the president of the MGCC. Where's Larry? There he is. You and your team, Larry, are working pretty hard at this point in time to work through an enormous number of applications. The good news is the legislature, the federal government, and the administration were able to give you a significant amount of resource to support small businesses during this incredibly difficult time. We're also pleased to have with us, we're in their districts, House Ways and Means Chair Aaron Michowitz and Senate Transportation Chair Joe Boncory. It's an unusual. It's great to have you guys with us, and obviously thank you for the 2-minute drill at the end of the legislative session. That was very much appreciated, I think, by everybody. Yesterday, 1,595 small businesses received grants totaling $78.6 million through the Mass Growth Capital Corporation's COVID-19 Business Grant Program. That was the third round of grants to go out the door since December 21st. When this grant program was launched to support small businesses and provide them with financial assistance due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we worked with the legislature to create a framework for this program. The fund was created by the legislature and established in October through the Economic Recovery Plan and was seeded originally with about $50 million in funding. Since then, we've added about $668 million to that program, which will go entirely to small businesses around the Commonwealth. The program we're operating is the largest small business grant program using COVID relief funds currently in the United States of America. We know how important it is to get small businesses up and running and to help them work their way through this last turn of the pandemic and to make sure that by the time we get to the spring, they're still with us. And we're proud that so many people were able to work with us to make this happen. The program's available to sectors that have been hit hardest by the pandemic: restaurants, independent retailers, indoor entertainment venues, and the like. And in this round of grants, recipients will receive approximately $78.5 million in direct support, bringing the total that's been awarded to date to $195 million to more than 4,100 small businesses here in Massachusetts. The remaining sum of money to be awarded, which will go to thousands, probably tens of thousands of businesses, will be issued in the coming weeks. Restaurants like the one we're standing in today, personal care, retail, healthcare businesses are the ones that receive the largest number of individual grants in this round. These companies have been hit particularly hard during the pandemic. Other grant recipients include women-owned businesses, businesses in gateway cities, businesses in underserved markets, and businesses that have previously received no other forms of financial assistance. It's important to note that the application process is still open for businesses that have not yet applied, and that grants of up to $75,000 are available. If you're a small business owner and you meet the criteria for the grant, please visit empoweringsmallbusiness.org and fill out that application. The program's part of a larger $774 million comprehensive strategy for economic recovery, which also includes efforts to revitalize downtowns, help people get back to work, support housing stability, and foster innovation in some of our fast-growing tech-based industries. The Lieutenant Governor will talk about more details shortly, but I want to make clear that we're continuing to accept applications for new grants based on this program, and we'll continue to run, I think it's through the next 10 days, right?
The application is the 15th.
15.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow's the end.
Tomorrow. Plenty of time.
Plenty of time,
Get to
tomorrow. Get to it. I thought it was the 25th. You're being
Excuse me, it's Friday.
Friday, which is tomorrow.
It is, okay, yes, exactly right.
Tomorrow, Friday.
Can't get anything by you guys.
We know how much this pandemic has affected small business here in the Commonwealth of Mass. That's why we work so hard with our colleagues in the legislature to create this program and seeded it so significantly. And we really do hope that people who qualify will have a chance to apply and receive some of the support that this program can make available. Here at Saraceno's, Frank plans to use the funding to keep the lights on, pay the rent, and we're glad that the funding's been able to help businesses like his stay in business throughout this pandemic. The program itself is going to help people get to what we call the other side of all this, when we can put the virus hopefully in the rearview mirror and get our economy running at top speed again. We're grateful for everybody's work and support on this and look forward to a brighter day ahead. And with that, I will turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor.
It is great to be here at Saraceno's with Frank. This is a 35-year-old business here in the North End. His wife and his daughter and son are all part of it, and it's exactly the kind of business that we want to see get through this pandemic and reopen more fully to all of your friends and patrons that love your menu and all the home-style cooking that you offer. Thank you for opening today for us to be here. This, obviously, as we all come through the neighborhood in the North End, it is such a special place. We all have a memory of some place or something that we've done here, and we treasure neighborhoods like this and so many across our Commonwealth. And today I just want to start, like the governor, to thank Larry Andrews and his team over at Mass Growth Capital, now over 40 people taking in the applications, viewing them, vetting them, and turning them around as fast as possible. The words speed and acceleration are very much a part of what your team is all about, to get these processed and get these dollars into the hands of businesses like Frank's. I also just want to give a real personal thank you to both Chairman Boncory and Chairman Michaelowicz for their tremendous effort. They have been very strong advocates for the restaurant industry and small businesses across the Commonwealth. And through you to the members, we appreciate your partnership on programs like this and other programs like the enhanced takeout service, as well as the enhanced outdoor dining experiences. It's been a real honor to work with you all.
Cap on delivery.
Yes, and the cap on delivery. And also through you to the members to get the word out about these programs, because you can have a program and have the resources and the dollars, but if business owners like Frank don't know about it, they can't take advantage of it. So it's really important that we get the word out. As the governor said, nearly $200 million has already been released through this program, reaching over 4,100 businesses in every corner of our Commonwealth. From child care centers in Wareham, where they're helping parents get to work, or a restaurant in Watertown, helping restaurants like Frank's and others literally keep the lights on, pay the utilities, keep the workforce in place so that they can get their paychecks and keep their family sustained. When you think about small business, you think about your local spin studio or your gym or place that you've just treasured as part of your daily fitness, helping places like that live through the pandemic and stay open and more fully open when the restrictions are lifted. In Springfield, we're hearing the same thing, reaching small businesses in local neighborhoods. Really important, especially as foot traffic has decreased because offices are not as full. It's really important to help these businesses continue. So we are pleased to be able to continue to roll out this program. This financial support is critical. We know that businesses have been stressed, struggling. These are very difficult and unsettling and uncertain times. So the certainty that these dollars can bring to help businesses get through these upcoming months is really important. So one more plug for the program. It is open, and it will address industry specific sectors hardest hit, like restaurants, bars, caterers, and food trucks, indoor recreation and entertainment establishments, gyms and fitness centers, event support companies like photographers, videographers, personal services, nail salons, barbershops, independent pharmacies, and small retailers. Prospective applicants only have until, I'll say this once again, midnight tomorrow, which is Friday, January 15th. So you have less than 2 days to submit your application for the current round. Like the first program, these grant awards will be up to $75,000 and capped at 3 months of operating expenses. Grants can be used for things like, as I said, payroll, employee benefit costs, mortgage and interest, rent, utilities, and interest on other debt obligations. All the things that you think about a lot, Frank, as you try to keep your business going.
Thank you.
So visit empoweringsmallbusiness.org to learn more, or if you're listening to this avail today and you know someone in your community that could benefit, ask them if they've applied. Please get the word out, really important. We will continue to work together with our partners in the legislature, our partners in local government, and yes, our partners in business who make up the fabric and character and everything we love about our neighborhoods and in our communities.
Thank you.
So thank you, Frank. We wish you good health, be safe, and as I've said, be vaccinated. And with that, I'd now like to turn it over to Larry Andrews, who's going to give you even more details about the program. And again, he's not sleeping. This is 24/7 effort to accelerate the pace of approvals for these grants. With that, I'll turn it over to Larry Andrews.
Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for operating your business and applying and receiving a grant. On behalf of Mass Growth Capital, we're pleased to continue to play such an important role in fighting this virus by providing necessary financial support directly to businesses. We know how important this support is, but we also know that our resources are limited. To that end, Mass Growth Capital continues to make every effort to target those small businesses that serve key customer bases in the communities that we know that have been most heavily impacted by COVID-19. We want to thank our partners, because this is really who makes it work for us, which would include Betty Francisco from Amplify Latinx, Segun Itoue from Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, Glenn Lloyd from Business Equity Initiative, Joe Kreisberg from the Mass Association of Community Development Corps, Karen Kelleher from LISC, and a special shout out to Doug Lynn, who's been helping us with this program, and the many members of the Coalition for Equitable Economy in Massachusetts spread throughout the Commonwealth. In addition, numerous colleagues from the extensive networks of community development corporations that are integral in supporting small business ecosystem with the delivery of services and technical assistance during these challenging times. In addition, Massachusetts Small Business Development Centers, including Samalid Hogan from Springfield, Small Business Strong, Chambers of Commerce, local economic directors, many trade groups, my friend Bob Nelson from the SBA and his team, including the 62 small business technical provider grantees from Massachusetts Growth Capital. And guess what? The list goes on. All pulling together to lend a hand to provide important relief to small businesses. Mass Growth Capital Corporation is proud to stand among them. And this is the most important thing I have to say. To the small business owners facing challenges, you are not alone. Your resiliency and tenacity to get to the other side is the reason why Mass Growth Capital Small Business Relief Grants exists, because you need to get to the other side. For the small business program today, announcement, as the governor said, there's an additional 1,595 small businesses that have been awarded grants, bringing that total that have received financial support to 4,119. That translates in a total just under $195 million. That's a far cry when we were talking in October. Among those recipients, many are located in gateway cities, also serving underserved markets, are businesses that previously had not received any kind of other financial support, and are represented by female business owners and minority business owners, and so much more. Including in the qualifying criteria were for those grants was a focus on small businesses, principally those businesses with 50 or fewer employers, and then also microenterprises with 5 or fewer employees. For the recipients in this first program, targeting small businesses, we've seen clusters of key sectors that include restaurants and bars, beauty and personal care, retail, and health care sectors. And as both the governor and the lieutenant governor said, as a reminder, the sector-specific relief grant program is open with applications, instructions, eligibility, and documentation requirements. It's all online at empoweringsmallbusiness.org. And I just came from a workshop with the Mass Restaurant Association, Bob Lutz, and his message was apply, 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 apply. And in closing, I want to recognize the dedicated team at Mass Growth Capital Corporation. I am humbled and honored to serve alongside of them, to meet the pressing needs of the small businesses that represent such a major component of the Massachusetts economy. We look forward to continuing to carry out the mission of Mass Growth Capital in supporting business in any way we can, especially during these unprecedented times, so that we can empower small businesses in Massachusetts. I'd like to introduce Chairman Michaelwitz. Just not long before COVID, we had a sit down, and who knew that we'd be at this point. But it's glad for your support, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Good morning, or still good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to the North End, and welcome to the North End. And Governor and Lieutenant Governor, I know you're both neither strangers to this neighborhood, and we appreciate you having you here today. And I'm just so thankful to be standing here with Frank. Because when I opened up the list of people that were recipients of the award, and to see Frank's business be one of them, it was very exciting, and I was very happy for him. I've known him my entire life, obviously growing up here in this neighborhood. I'd hug him if I could, if it wasn't social distancing concerns, but we were very excited because it actually shows real dollars going to real businesses and real people, particularly in the North End here, where we've had our struggles dealing with the pandemic. Small businesses have been crippled like no other industry, and the hospitality industry has been crippled like no other industry. throughout this pandemic. And this is actually real dollars getting out into the community across the Commonwealth, not just here in this neighborhood, and is going to have a real impact in making sure that we can try to survive during this, particularly over the next couple of months here as we roll out the vaccine and get through a difficult time period. Governor and Lieutenant Governor, I appreciate all the support and all the help that you have provided, your team, the creativity that you guys have been able to work through at every point in time. And yes, we did run a 2-minute drill, a 2-minute offense to get you those pieces of legislation, but you have to bring it home. You have to bring it over the goal line here on those major ones and score the touchdown. And so I look forward to seeing you do that. But all kidding aside, the governor and lieutenant governor and their team, Secretary Heffernan, the Mass Growth Capital Corporation, we've all been trying to work together here during what has obviously been a complicated and unprecedented time for all of us. And so, that partnership, I look forward to continuing and moving forward. And, for my district, we did very well during this first round of grants. Many people think, when they think of the district that I represent being downtown Boston, they think of the big, tall buildings that are out there, but they are the small neighborhoods of Boston and the small businesses of Boston. And I actually have probably the most small, I think I'm the capital of the small business industry, not just the capital of the being Boston, but the capital of the small business industry because of places like the North End, places like the South End, Chinatown, where this pandemic has really had rippling effects throughout the economy and throughout our businesses. So I'm very pleased and honored that we were able to roll out so many dollars to get them into the hands of folks throughout over the next couple weeks here, and then going forward with hopefully more applicants. And that's what I think the Lieutenant Governor stressed it best about, and other folks as well, saying that this is an impact or showing that we need to apply. Businesses need to apply. This is a real example of a business getting the dollars in its hands, and that's going to happen. But the first step that you have to do is you have to apply. And if you don't apply, then you really obviously have no shot about getting these dollars. So, businesses, small businesses, make sure you get out there either by the end of today or either by the end of tomorrow or when other rounds come about. This is a real opportunity to survive over the next couple of months. So thank you for having me. And again, thank you for being here in the North End, and congratulations, Frank. And without further ado, I want to introduce my partner in the legislature, our partner for the North End here, Senator Joe Boncore.
Hold your Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's really a wonderful day to be here today in the North End to celebrate the first round of grants that are going to be going to small businesses here in the North End, but really across the community. Like Chairman Michaelwitz was saying, when you represent in a neighborhood like the North End, with so many small businesses, more than 80 restaurants in just a few square blocks, when this pandemic hit, we heard the stories. We heard how North End restaurants and small businesses were inordinately hit by this pandemic. And in the news, you see a lot that it's a small business. But when you represent these neighborhoods and the people in the neighborhoods, you see the families behind that, behind the business, you see the employees behind the business, and you see the rippling effects it really has on a community. So I want to thank the governor, the lieutenant governor, and Mass Growth Capital Corporation for coming here today and putting money into the community, putting money into small businesses that is going to help families in the North End. It's going to help families across the Commonwealth. It's going to help employees, and it's going to help community get back to normal. We understand that these monies here are not the silver bullet. There's a lot more work to be done. There is great work being done in the legislature, and I guess the 2-minute drill, as we're referring it to it now, and with the Economic Development Bond Bill that was ably led by Chairman Michaelwitz and Senator Lesser. And I know Speaker Mariano and President Spilker knew that failure wasn't an option in these times. And this is just another indication that us in government understand the pangs that small businesses and families are going through. So it's wonderful to be here. Hopefully, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, next time you're back in the North End, it'll be for a feast, and the streets will be packed again. And that's where we're all headed back to, Frankie. And it's just great to be with you all here today and celebrate all of this. Stay healthy, stay well, and hopefully everyone will be vaccinated in due time. Thank you.
Questions for this crew? Any of us?
Frank, can you tell us how's the restaurant doing, and how tough was it for you? If you could step up to the mic, if you wouldn't mind, sir. How was it?
It's
How
been,
close were you to having to close, and how is this money gonna help you?
it's gonna help me very much, because of another couple of months, it's all I can stand for it. And then I will, but it's gonna be a big help, big help. After 35 years, you know, you see everything you're going away, you know. I use all the means that whatever I had, and this came just in time.
Has it been a sad time for you and your
Yes,
family?
yes, yes.
Because you miss the people, right?
Of course, it's my life. I'm here 7 days a week. I work every day just to expect the people, you know, to greet people, but there is no way we're greeting anybody.
What's your specialty?
My specialty, seafood, veal,
Okay. Thank you.
pasta.
I love it. Thank you very much.
I hope you come and see me someday.
All right.
Love to have you.
I'm at the table by the fireplace.
Okay, you got it. You got it. You got it.
Governor, are you able to, Frank was saying he has maybe a couple more months left in him. With the vaccine on schedule, I know there's so many moving parts, but if you had to give people a timeline, when will we see that 25% capacity start to go back up and be back to a point
Well,
where?
we're obviously paying a lot of attention to the public health data on this stuff, and especially the hospital census data. And obviously, we had a huge surge both in cases and hospitalizations after Thanksgiving, which made us all very nervous about the Christmas and New Year's week. I will say that we're now 14 days past New Year's, and for the past 10 days or so, we've actually seen a leveling out and even a very modest decline, but a decline in our hospitalization rates. Now, before we get too excited about that, we need to remember that we also saw a continuing increase in the growth in our daily case counts over that same period of time. And usually those two things translate into, one translates into the other. It's usually later. But obviously the biggest issue for us is making sure that our healthcare system has the ability to not just serve people who are dealing with COVID, but also people who are dealing with other life-threatening conditions. And that, for us, is the primary factor that we pay attention to with respect to how we think about some of these other issues. But obviously, I'll tell you this, the difficulties associated with what many small businesses, and especially those in the hospitality and entertainment business, have gone through because of the pandemic and all that came with it, is profound. And that's one of the reasons why we in the legislature work so hard to scrape together enough funding to create what is, for all intents and purposes, the largest program of its kind to support small business in the country. And that's not on a per capita basis, that's just on raw dollar basis. So if you add up the first 50 plus the 668, you're talking more than $700 million in funding for small businesses. And it's not loans, this is grants, stuff they can use to pay for rent, for utilities, for mortgages, for staff, for stuff they can't use. And for many of these businesses, we do believe it will be a big part of what helps them get through the difficult times we're in now and past this curve and into the world that we hope will come when we finally get the vaccine fully distributed.
This summer will look a lot different than last summer with the vaccine on the ground?
I think this summer should look a lot different than last summer, although, and I should probably let other people answer this question, I thought the North End in particular, with all the outdoor seating, I thought that was, we all thought that was pretty great. And we created a shared streets program with state money that never existed before, specifically because some of the first movers who created some of those open seating arrangements in communities around the Commonwealth really sort of fed everybody's imagination about how people could think differently about warmer weather and entertaining generally. And I hope that one of the things that one of the good things that comes out of all this is a lot more collaboration and creativity between us, local governments, and our colleagues in the legislature and those businesses that operate on those streets to think about how we continue to use outdoor spaces going forward. I mean, a lot of this street, a lot of other streets in this area, streets in the south end, streets up on the North Shore, it was festival-like in the summer. And to the extent that we could figure out a way to make that a permanent part of how we think about the 20 minutes of warm weather we get around here, I think that'd be great.
Governor, have you made a decision about sending troops to D.C.? I know you're wrestling with whether we're going to have an issue here and whether you can spare the troops with the National Guard.
So we've been in pretty regular conversation with the feds for the past several days, and we'll have more to say about this specifically later today, but we will be sending Guard personnel to Washington, D.C. as part of the force that they're putting together for the inaugural activities.
It's a few hundred, as you had said.
We'll have more to say about it.
So wait for the.
Yeah, but look, this has been a lot of back and forth over the past 48 hours between the Guard here, the Guard in D.C., and some of our colleagues in local and state law enforcement here, and we're just sort of putting the finishing touches on what we're planning to do, and it'll be out to you guys later today.
But you're happy to lend support where support's needed in a time of crisis.
Oh yeah, look, I think I think it's incredibly important for the country that that this transition be smooth and as uneventful as possible.
Governor, on that 2-minute drill that everybody's been talking about, any closer on the climate drill? Today is the day you have to.
Yeah. As I said yesterday when I get asked about this, that in fact, Chair Michaelwitz was the one we negotiated the offline Airbnb bill with to a final conclusion at the end of the session 2 years ago. Right? Where is he?
I remember it well.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The big challenge we have here is we have, and I said this yesterday too, COVID made it very difficult for a body that has 160 members and a body that has 40 members that normally meets in person, face-to-face, and handles debate and discussion that way, to do that. And just based on the timing, I only have one choice on this. I either got to sign it or veto it. And one of the things the legislature also did, which we're enormously grateful for, is the economic development bill includes 3 years worth of work on getting a housing production and exclusionary zoning bill done, which will make it possible for us to build a lot more housing, a lot more quickly, in a lot more neighborhoods that's much more affordable. And one of my big concerns is I've gotten a lot of incoming from a lot of folks who are in the building and home construction business who've said that certain pieces of this bill, which remember I can't amend and send back, literally may just stop in its tracks any housing development in the Commonwealth. And those words get my attention because while we support many elements of that bill and have worked collaboratively with the folks in the legislature on numerous climate initiatives, which is part of the reason why we're a national leader on this stuff, we've got to build more housing that's less expensive, not less housing that's more expensive. And that issue in particular really rings true for me, especially as we come out of this terrible period we've been in.
Speaker Mariano said he's going to refile the conference report
Yep.
for climate. Do you hope that they make changes in between now and then? Is there something that would make it more palatable for you?
Well, first of all, we need to make our decision, right? And what that says to me is that the House and the Senate would like to get, quote, a significant bill done on this issue. So would we. So from my point of view, that's a positive.
Dana Farber told one of our colleagues that cancer screenings are down, and you were just talking about that. So how are we going to try to handle that and get people back into these screenings?
One of the reasons why we treated all the outpatient stuff differently this time than we treated it in the spring. In other words, in the spring, we kind of, for a while there, shut down almost everything except just COVID-related activities and emergency procedures. One of the reasons we didn't do that, based on our conversations and dialogue with our colleagues in the healthcare world, was because we wanted people to continue to get a lot of that outpatient preventive service that is so important to both identifying and dealing early with issues around all sorts of illnesses, including cancer. And I think you'll probably see us say a lot more about this with our colleagues in the healthcare community next week. Last spring, I do think part of our messaging, usually with folks from the healthcare world, was don't stop doing that activity. And we did not specifically make changes in the way a lot of the ambulatory and outpatient stuff works as part of the sort of regulatory apparatus we put in place to get through this particular second surge, because we wanted people to continue to get screenings and to pursue those necessary procedures. That stuff is all still wide open, didn't change it, left it as it was.
Do you think the city of Boston should skip the special election from there?
I tend to try and stay in my own lane on this stuff, Mike. And we have never not signed. The only home rule petitions we've ever sent back have been ones where there was a technical problem that would make it hard or impossible in some cases to implement. And that usually, we hear from the community about that about the time we get the bill, or we raise it with them and send it back if there are issues. But as a general rule, two former select board members, we sign home rule petitions.
Last question.
Governor, people with disabilities are applauding you for a section of this bill, the police training bill, that's going to help officers, new officers, understand how to deal with people who have autism or on the spectrum. Is this something that was important to you, and did you think about this particular section at all?
One of the biggest and most valuable elements of the entire police reform bill, in my view, is the laser-like focus that everybody, whatever side they were on when we got into this debate, brought to the question of training and brought to the question of, de-escalation, and how do you handle and deal with difficult circumstances involving different kinds of communities and individuals. And I think credit where credit is due to several folks in the law enforcement community. I mean, one of the things, and I said this as well a while back, that one of the things that Colonel Mason said when he interviewed to be the colonel of the state police was that their training regimen needed to step back on a lot of the sort of more militaristic aspects of it and get much more into the community engagement, de-escalation, and conversation, communication, understanding, empathy element of being in law enforcement. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to work with our colleagues in the community, our colleagues in the law enforcement community as well, to make sure that they get trained, not just trained up as they become officers, but trained as they continue in their careers around issues associated with dealing with populations that have a whole variety of, deaf and hard of hearing, okay? Another community, no one wears that on their sleeve, right? So you don't necessarily know if you're a police officer, if somebody's dealing with an issue like that. What are some of the ways folks in law enforcement can incorporate recognizing and understanding issues like that into the way they engage with people in the community? I think there are real positives there, and certainly from my point of view, that was one of the things. If you talk to Tom Turco about this, who's the Secretary of Public Safety, part of why he got into that conversation with the Black and Latino Legislative Caucus in the first place was because he felt we needed to do more with training, and that a big part of creating a post program, some sort of a certification program, would be about focusing on recognizing, spending money, and building a really robust training curriculum so that officers on the ground are much better prepared to work with and communicate with all kinds of people from all walks of life who are dealing with all kinds of issues. And I think that's a really good thing.
Governor, I just wanted to ask, as the top Republican in Massachusetts, now that Trump has been impeached, Republicans are out of power in Washington, where do you see the party moving forward from here, and how do you think it should be moving forward?
Well, I'd say a couple of things about this. One is I have always believed that there is far more common ground than many people in public life recognize or appreciate. and that may just be because my dad is a Republican and my mom was a Democrat, but part of the way you create legislation, part of the way you build community is by recognizing and understanding that there's more than one way to think about an issue and more than one way to deal with it. And I think it's critically important for Republicans and for anybody in public life to get back to the fundamental fact that the people who built our democracy in the first place wanted it to be a debate and a discussion, and wanted it to be something where you couldn't necessarily get a lot done unless you were willing to compromise and work with others. And I think for Republicans, whether at the local level or the state level or the federal level or whatever part of the country you're in, my advice would be the same, which is we have a point of view about the importance of economic development, about the importance of community building, about the importance of being fiscally responsible and disciplined. But fundamentally, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or whatever you might be, this is a team sport. And if you can't come at it as a team sport, you're going to have a very hard time being successful. And I think a lot of folks in my party and in politics generally need to stop thinking about this game as a game about who you're against and who you hate and who you're going to focus your venom on, and start thinking about it as a game that recognizes and understands that to truly be successful, this needs to be about addition and collaboration. I mean, we don't always agree with the folks that we're here with today. But we do agree on many occasions, and I totally respect that, believe in it, and understand it. And I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, everybody.
Governor, do you want to be a national leader and be an ambassador for the kind of politics you just described to the Republican Party as they rebuild?
I have always said that this was the job I wanted, and if there's some way for me to participate in broader conversations and to use the platform that this job creates for me to do that, I will do that. But I want to make really clear that I am not interested in, and never would I use this job to get some other job. Not interested. That's one of the other things that's always bummed me out about. If you run for a position, you should serve in that position. You should dedicate yourself to that position and not spend your time thinking about how you can use that position to get to another one. So my answer to your question is, yeah, if I can be helpful in a larger conversation about what I think of as the right way to play this so-called game, I'm happy to do that. But I don't want anybody to walk away thinking that I would ever use this position to leverage something else.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody, and thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you.